and a boom jive and a sailor, I think he was from, he unexpectedly of the boom, and the boom hit him in his head, and this is at night, dark night, and knocked him straight overboard. My grandfather straight in the sea one time, hollered to the mate, and he jumped straight overboard. And in the middle of the night, Puerto Rico, and found the man. Luckily, the mate put the wheel of the vessel down right away and made the vessel tack and come back. And my grandfather found the guy, but the guy was, his whole skull was crushed. So he was alone in the sea with this man, and he thought, well, there's the end of me too. And then all of a sudden, in his own words, he saw what coming out of the gloom, like Jonah and the whale. He saw this thing emerge. And what it was the long boat, the little 12-foot long boat that the schooners have on their decks. The crew had very smartly thrown the boat overboard right away. And it had capsized, but it was all wood, so it still floated. So he was able to find and put out his hand. He said he put out his hand, terrified that there was some whale about to eat him. And when he felt it, he realized it was wood. And he realized what had happened, and he was able to drag himself and the crewman who had died up on the overturned boat until daylight, when the eagle came back and found him and rescued him. So that's a sad story. And there are other stories like that, which again show you how cool the culture was in those days. And this has to do, regrettably, I'm just giving you a few laughs that are more somber. Death at sea. If you go again and look at the warspite, you would see all the men, so many hundreds of men in Anguilla who had to go on these schooners to the had to sleep in the middle of ballast rocks. All right? There were no bathrooms on a schooner. You wanted to go to the toilet, you go to the shrouds, or you go to the stern and you hang overboard. There was a famous Arthur Bull. Gwen and Bina would remember him, Arthur Bull. Arthur Bull would tell you if you were hanging overboard, whistle. Why whistle? Well, if you stop whistling, I know you'll drop over. So that's a true story. That's how the old fellas used to operate. So anyway, on a couple of occasions, somebody would die. And obviously, it's just like right up to after the revolution in Anguilla, before there were any, when some funeral was the next day. Well, in this case, on a schooner, the funeral was hours. So what they would then do is they would take the dead man and they would bring him up on deck and they would wrap him in old sails. If they had, a schooner always had more than one crowd of sails. Him in sails, and they would then take ballast rocks that were down in the whole of the school. They would wrap the rocks in the bottom of the made of sail. And then they would put them on a pack, and then they would put on the side of the vessel, and then, this is interesting, of all the sails, except the jib, which is the sail furthest to the front, and the which is the sail furthest to the back. You can go on the model of the warspite in there. So the stem staysail will come off, the foresail will come off, down. So they pull the vessel right down. But slack out the sheets so that the vessel would just be barely. And then the captain would read a funeral service or a few passages from the Bible. And then he would say, to the deep, you know how in an ordinary funeral service, Ashes to ashes. Well, on the sea, you would say to the deep. And then they would tip the plank and the body would fall overboard. The cool part. As soon as the body hit the water and disappeared beneath the waves, the sails were pulled in tight so that the vessel had speed and the vessel would have to tack. So you're here, you drop the body, you catch some speed, and you immediately tack. So when I first started researching this, and I spoke to a few captains about, I said, well, why do that? Why would you have to tack right away? You know what the answer was? If they tacked right away, they would confuse the dead man's spirit, and he would not follow the vessel. That's your culture. That's your maritime culture for you. All right? That's 4 stories. I'm done. Avanella, give me a break.
You have a break, Mr. Carty. You did well. Please put your hands together for Mr. David Carty and those old sea tales. You're going to have a little more of a break for 7 minutes? No, 5 minutes. And then the famous Rebel Marine tour is coming up. For those of you who just walked in, you want to stay for the tour. You leave here a much richer person. The tour tree is just down here. Beyond the float tent to the west at 2:30, and it's going to be given tours. Trust me, you want to take the tour. So just gather by the tree around 2:30, and we're going to be doing the tour at that time.